Hello, gore whores and fellow deadites, and welcome to Our Life in Horror. We are a horror movie podcast with a gore-filled side of news, physical media, and everything spooky. My name is Brennan, and with me is my horror queen, Sam, as always.
Hi guys, we are Our Life in Horror. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We also have our Patreon up now, so feel free to subscribe where we have our after hours shows, bonus episodes, and more. And today we're doing an interview with Jill Gevargizian, and I'm hoping I say that right. She's the writer and director of the movie The Stylist, and she has a new movie coming out. They just wrapped on filming, so we're excited to talk about that. Hi Jill, how are you tonight?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us, and congrats on wrapping on your new movie.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Super exciting. Before we get started, do you want to plug any of your Instagram social media accounts for the listeners?
Yeah. You can follow me on all the places at Jill Sixx with 2 X's. And then the Stylist at the Stylist Film all over. And I tend to run a lot of social medias for people because it's a thing that I do. But another film that I'm helping produce and run the social for is called Black Mold. We're about to make our world premiere at Panic Fest here in like a week and a half. So that should be starting playing lots of festivals this year.
Awesome. I'm excited to talk about that one. Do you want to play a couple would you rather questions before we get into it?
I'm scared already, but let's do
it. We geared them towards you too, so we'll see how hard these are.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Would you rather give up music or give up filmmaking?
Just like listening to music at all?
Yeah.
Well, the catch is you can't make a movie without music. So I might have, so I don't know. I think you can't have one without the other. So it's kind of a hard question. So I'd have to, I don't know. And like, if I pick movies, does that mean I still get music because you need music in movies? Or is this a silent film?
I guess you could listen to the music in the movies, but I guess like music outside of the movies, we'll say.
I really don't know. See, I am not good at this shit.
That's all right.
I can't, I don't know.
That's all right.
Oh, fuck.
We'll give you a pass for this one. Brendan, you want to ask the next one?
Yeah. So, would you rather make a movie with Wes Craven or John Carpenter?
Wes Craven.
And why?
Yeah, that's quick.
Yeah. I just grew up, I think, closer to his films than I did John Carpenter's. Of course, I knew Halloween, but I didn't see like The Thing like most of his films till I was an adult, other than Halloween. And the Scream franchise, for instance, I grew up on, like, that stuff came out when I was like, 12, 13, 14, the first 3. Which for me is really hard for me to watch all these young people ranking the new Screams and putting like 3 at the bottom. And I'm like, oh my God, this is sacrilegious. So yeah, I think Wes Craven. And he's had I guess they both have really cool careers, but he's gone through so many different phases. And I think all artists, I like when they really evolve and they don't try to, just stay in the one thing like their whole career.
All right. Good answer. Would you rather a night out partying with friends or a night in watching horror movies?
I like both things, but now definitely, I guess, a night in. Younger me would have said we could probably go out partying.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, definitely. Outside of horror, would you rather make an action movie or a rom-com?
An action movie.
Yeah.
Well, I would make a rom-com too, but I really like action movies. And I feel like that's something that's like, I opened my eyes since getting really into like the film scene and seeing how close horror and action can really be. Because I think growing up, I just thought of just like mainstream, really big, like action movies weren't really my thing. And I think I was wrong all that time.
All right. So we'll get into it then. That's all we had for you. Don't worry. Where did the name Jill Sixx come from? Because I see that's your tag on most things, so I'm just curious.
Yeah, you guys are gonna learn I'm the most like I need to learn how to answer questions more succinctly. My favorite number has always been 6, and I think it's because my birthday is February 6th. I'll always try to figure out like why did I decide this like really young that was my favorite number. But then once I started to learn everything connected to it, like my obsession just grew. Like an obsessive person. So when I learned it was like evil and like the connection to the devil, then I liked it even more. And then I discovered Nikki Sixx and Molly Crew and his whole story and was really inspired by that. And then I just straight up stole the way that Nikki Sixx spells his name. And just was like a nickname when I was younger, and I didn't expect it to go this far. And so that's why I kind of decided, like, when I started directing, I was like, I'm not going to go by Jill Sixx. I wanted to like use my real name, and I kept it connected to me still through like my production company. But yeah,
All right.
I just
Cool.
love it. And anytime I see it, even I got lunch today with friends and we were at table 6, and I was like, lucky number 6, yay.
It's funny that you say that about the birthday, because I totally took my birthday number when I was little and said that was my favorite number too.
We're so creative.
I know,
don't
right?
I remember so well this guy telling me, like, I played, what was it, soccer or t-ball? I was picking a number for something when I was little, like our practice jerseys, and I told him I wanted 6, and he was like, that's not a very lucky number. And I just remember like being like, oh well, F you. I mean, I didn't think that because I'm like 9, but I was just like, the like natural rebel in me was like, well, I want it even more now that you've said that, which I didn't understand why at the time he said that.
Where are you from, and how did you get into filmmaking, and how long have you been doing it for?
I'm from Kansas City, and I still live here. And how long have I been doing it? Oh my God. I've only realized it's been way longer than I thought recently. I made my first short in 2013. Oh my God, it's only 10 years. It came out in 2014. I'm gonna have to have a party for the 10-year anniversary or something. But I just jumped into it. I didn't go to film school. I had no idea what I was doing, but I loved film my whole life. You know, I'd make stuff when I was really little in a very not serious way, but not till I was almost 30. I'm almost 40 now. As we know by the 10 years thing. Oh God. But a friend of mine, I had like started showing independent films here in Kansas City at a screening series that we did once a month. And I was inspired to do that by meeting all these filmmakers at a horror convention. And that's what really made me realize like real, like no, like regular everyday people also made movies, not just like these like out of reach people like in Hollywood. I think that's all I thought. I never like knew a filmmaker until that point. And that's what changed my whole thinking on it. I was like, oh, this is like something people can actually do that aren't just like rich people that already have all the connections. And so through like showing them, I started kind of just like working my way on other people's sets. And then my friend Eric had this script, which ended up we called it Call Girl. It's like a very short film with Lawrence Harvey from The Human Centipede 2 in it. And It's on YouTube. All my shorts are on YouTube. But I had no idea what I was doing. Like when we started making that movie, I still say like I'm still learning as I go with like every film. But once we made that one, I was just like, I felt like I found like a huge passion. And I was just like, oh, this is like so many things I love in one. Like making a movie is like fashion, it's design, it's like photography, music, like every art form is like in this one thing. So I was just like, I felt like I found like the thing I wanted to do finally. Yeah, and it just kept going, and somehow I'm still doing it.
That's awesome. What are some of your favorite horror movies, and how did you get into horror?
Favorites are so hard for me. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of people have their top 5 of like locked in their brain of all these things. And I'm like, mine will change every time you ask me almost, except there's like a few staples, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre I will always bring up. Yeah. The original Texas Chainsaw is definitely one of my favorites. Like Candyman, the original. And I would say the original about everything because everything's been remade. Is one of my faves. I really like. You might see a connection in like kind of more tragic, sympathetic monsters, which I try to do it with the Stylist. But I mean, I also love Scream, like I brought up. I don't even know what are some of my favorites. So many, but I don't know. I've always loved being scared. I just that once I like discovered that feeling, like playing silly games with friends when you were little, like outside in the dark. And then once I discovered there were like scary, like first like stories, like scary stories to tell in the dark, those books we had, which I wonder if they're still in elementary libraries now because they're so scary. And then discovering like Are You Afraid of the Dark on Nickelodeon, and then finally seeing like a movie, and I'm like, oh man, this is so I was so excited to like see them for the first time, which was like at 9 and 10 years old when I would stay with my friend whose parents did not pay attention to what we were renting, way young, that's not that I'm suggesting anyone does this, but was the fun way to do it. Like watch it when you're still going to be scared to death of stuff. But yeah, once I found it, I was like, I think I just like, I don't just love scary. I think like any kind of film that's like really like emotionally confrontational, whether it's like scary or sad or just like the really extreme stuff that like you can't just watch like passively, like it really engages you.
I wish I could. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say I wish I could get that first scary movie feeling again of like your first movie.
Me too. Or just that feeling of going to the store and like you'd rent something and like you have no idea what the hell it is, just like basing it off of a picture. Kids these days will never know.
I was just gonna ask, do you remember some of the first couple horror movies that you watched as a kid growing up? Like anything that like particularly like sticks right out?
Candyman was definitely one of them. I remember watching early, and I feel like it's one that stands the test of the time that like I can watch now, and like there's still so many scenes that are just like immediate like chills. Such a good film. But then there's stuff like I remember watching Dr. Giggles pretty early, and actually was just talking about that one with a friend the other day. I'm surprised that Dr. Giggles didn't turn into a franchise. It's so like I thought like, should we start it now? But Larry Drake, who played Dr. Giggles, had passed away not too long ago. But that one really stuck in my mind for some reason. I don't know. I remember I was like so geeked for like finally watching The Exorcist, like I remember creating this like list of like kind of classic films that I wanted to become like a horror aficionado when I was like 12 years old. So I was like, what are all the movies that I need to see so I can like be educated and like know how to talk about all this stuff? And Scream is totally what like inspired that, because like this is in the early days of the fucking internet. But when Scream came out, I remember finding like a blog. I don't even think we called them blogs yet. But this was like a list of all the references within Scream that like I was too young to even know these references, like shitloads of like tiny nods to movies. And I used that as like this like Bible. I was like, I need to see all these movies and I need to know them. But yet somehow I grew up and I still like felt like there's so many movies I still haven't seen that I'll mention to people and they're like, how do you exist? And how have you not seen this movie yet? That was a ramble. I don't even know what I said.
That's
so see, this is how I answer questions. And I'm like, what was the question? Did I answer it?
That's all right. Oh, yeah. I feel you though. Brendan's been showing me all the OG movies just recently. So like people are shocked by the movies I haven't seen either. And I've been watching horror for like years and years and years.
I mean, that's the best part. Like they're like, it's never ending. There's like we can never watch every movie that's out there. Exactly. I've been watching all these old movies recently, like old noirs and like really old monster movies that I didn't see. Like finally the Invisible Man, like the 1930s original. And I mean, old movies are great. We should all be watching more old movies, I think.
Yeah.
I love the classic monster movies. I haven't got Sam to watch one yet, but soon.
Yeah, I haven't gone there yet.
We'll start with the 80s and then we'll work our way back slowly.
Yeah. who are some of your influences in horror?
Um, oh man, I don't even know where to begin. As far as like directors, it's interesting. A lot of my influences are like not, I guess, directly horror people. And a lot of it, I don't know. I find influences when it comes to a specific project. I'll like then dive into like new things I've never even known about. Um, so it's like very dependent on the project as far as like influences, but like in general, I don't know. I'm more of like a psychological thriller, drama, horror person. So I more think of people like David Fincher or I can't think of his name, Paul Schrader, who made like First Reformed and wrote like Taxi Driver and most of Martin Scorsese's films. I don't know. As far as who are my biggest influences, it's like all over the place. I mean, definitely Toby Hooper, Chainsaw fame. Wes Craven, a lot of, or like Catherine Bigelow is a huge inspiration to me, who's gone on to make. She's like one of the only women to win an Oscar, it went from horror to action, which you guys should watch Near Dark, a great 80s film, which is Catherine's, I think, is that her first film? It's a vampire movie.
Okay.
But yeah.
Same, you've seen it.
I have seen it.
You guys did see it?
Yes, you guys watched it. I loved it. Bill Paxton
I must have been really tired.
Oh my God, Bill Paxton in that
think
movie.
I think I know which one you're talking about now. Okay.
It's like the sexiest he's ever been. Oh my God. Vampire, Western, Bill Paxton.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. I love vampire movies.
I know I didn't discover a lot of vampire movies till like way later. Like I didn't see Near Dark till in the last like 8 years. A lot of films I was like, I think also because vampire films they're more mature, they're more, a lot of the 80s movies that we watched as kids are just like the slashers, which are, no offense, like very shallow, like they're made for kids. There's not much going on, not much to think about. Like vampire movies are made for like adults for sure.
Yeah. I started off with TV shows like Vampire Diaries.
Oh, hell
True
yeah.
Blood.
I'm a sucker for all of that, like super sleazy, sexy stuff like that too. It's like a soap opera disguised with horror.
Yes. Here for it.
Jill, what do you like to do in your spare time outside of filmmaking?
Great question. What do I do outside of filmmaking? Well, this is not spare time, but I'm still a hairstylist. I like to say that and scare people when it comes to my movie, who is about a hairstylist that kills people. That's where that whole inspiration came from. But I'm really a big like nature hippie nerd who wishes it was nice outside 365 so I could spend every day outside. I love like hiking and camping on the lake and all that kind of stuff. I love listening to music. I love dancing. I dance a lot. I go to dance classes for fun, honestly, and watch movies and read. And I'm trying to just be a more well-rounded, relaxed person, which nature is a great thing for that too, as well.
What scares you?
I
know it's broad.
I am a scaredy cat, actually, in many ways. Not with movies normally, but with certain real things. Like, it's so freaking silly. For instance, I don't even know. I can be scared of like I don't know, of the dark if I'm exploring some weird place. Like, I think places, things that most people would be scared of, but I like put myself in these situations and I'm like, I don't know why. I like incredibly bad anxiety, but I will put myself in situations where it's like triggered so bad. I'm like, why did I do this on purpose? Like I'll drive when I road trip, I'll drive on purpose. So like really scenic route. That's not like the typical interstate, because I want to see stuff. And like on my way home from this film we just shot, I drove through West Virginia. I was hoping to drive through the mountains, and I drove through the freaking mountains. I didn't know how deep I was going to be going in them. I just took a route. I didn't study it in detail before I started driving it. And then I'm like suddenly so deep in, I'm like, look to my right and there's this huge freaking valley, and I'm like, just look straight forward and don't look away, Jill. But on a real scary thing, like another thing with the shoot, we were shooting in this old mansion in Maryland, which is like a dream for me to I love like old architecture and creepy old places and just like being able to see them. And me and my assistant director would go up there, but like this like a week before we're even starting to shoot, and we don't even have the key at this point. We go up to the house like total idiots on the full moon, which it's the full moon tonight. That feels right. And we were like just exploring the perimeter of it. It's like I'm trying to scare myself. I don't even understand why. I like parked my car so we could make a break for it, as if Leatherface was going to come out of the basement. And that is how it felt like. So we were like going around. This place has a very creepy basement that has like stone stairs to it, and the only way to get in the basement's from there. Like, no, you can't go in from inside the house. And we go around the corner, and the like basement door is like cracked open pretty big, not just like, oh, it blew open. It was like, this has been moved. And he like shines his flashlight down there, and I'm like, no. And then we're just standing there for a second and hear like the tiniest sound. It could have like been a leaf blow, and I ran like I was Sally at the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre for my life into the car and just started driving. And we're like, nothing's even going on, probably. So it's not that hard to scare me. You just put me in like a dark room in a creepy place. Once like in an actual movie, I know it's all like just a narrative and it's fine. But in real life, things do scare me for sure. And we shot like a short film in a prison once too, and decided to go explore a dark hallway just to try to get scared. And then they try to lock me in this fucking place. I'm like, that's okay. Don't try to pull pranks on me, because I'm way too actually scared for that to be a thing.
That sounds like fun though. I've been telling Brendan for years I want to go check out like abandoned buildings and stuff and just, I don't know, get in a scary mood, but we just hang out at home.
I love that stuff.
I know, so do I. So we're gonna get into some questions about the Stylist before we get into the new movie questions. I know you can only say so much, but we actually, when the movie came out on Brendan's the collector, I'm not a collector, was it Arrow?
Yeah, it was Arrow.
Yeah, when it came out, we got 2 copies when we first started our Instagram page, and we did a giveaway with it. We were so excited.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So, well, I guess you kind of already answered. I was going to ask, how did you come up with the idea? But you are a hairdresser yourself?
Yeah. And it really, though, just came from like how had to be at the salon one day, and I'm like, how does this not already exist? It's such an obvious idea.
Yeah.
This sounds fucked up. All horror movie writer, I think people think like we think about morbid things like all the time because you have to. But I'm in there and I'm like, there's so many, especially like a really kind of over the top slasher, which I feel like that could still, I didn't end up doing that version of it. I'm like, how does it not exist? Because there's so many ways to kill or torture somebody in a salon with all like the wax and the chemicals and the scissors, and there's like so many things. It just like from that era of Dr. Giggles, like I brought up, there was also like the landlady and the dentist and all these like profession driven slasher movies. And I was like, how does this not already exist from like the early 90s? And so it started there, and I'm like, and then I kind of started to lean more into this like psychological thriller, serial killer version. But I still joke / maybe it's not a joke that I want to make a sequel one day that is like over the top, in the kind of in the vein of how my one of my favorites, Toby Hooper, did, from like the original Chainsaw to the sequel of Chainsaw. Is just like a slapstick comedy. He like intentionally just made it a completely opposite type of film. But yeah, I just started there. I was like, how does not, other than Sweeney Todd, we don't have any hairstylist killers? And I'm like, we need this. And I felt like I was like as a hairstylist, I felt like, as like maybe scary as it might sound, I was like, I can make this the right way, or like in a genuine way, as far as the hair, like that part of it, the realistic part of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, what they say to, write what you know. And also like Robert Rodriguez, his biggest teaching in his book, Rebel Without a Crew, is like when you're starting out and you don't have, if you don't have like millions of dollars at your disposal, is to think of like, what are the unique things you do have, like as far as locations or things that will up your production value. And the Stylist started as a short. So with the short, I was like, I have access to salons. Like I've always thinking about locations, because locations make your movie look a million times better, depending on if you can find a cool place and it makes sense for the story. So I always kind of wrote like that. I thought about locations as like one of the biggest things to write around. So it just kind of came all through all of that.
Awesome. Did you do any of the girls' hair on set since you're a stylist, or did someone else do it?
I didn't. People do ask that a lot though.
Yeah.
Because it does make I don't on mine when I'm directing, just because it's insanity. I have with this seems sexist, now I'm gonna say it out loud, but with certain casts I have, if they're people with really short hair, I've done it myself because I know it's not going to take very much time.
Okay.
Or like really need any styling. With the stylist, I definitely did not, because I wanted her to be like really styled.
Okay.
Courtney Jones did the hair and makeup on both the short and the feature of the stylist. And the feature was, I wish people paid more attention to like the jobs like a hairstylist on a movie like that, because they don't get any of the like shine and accolades. But it's like she would, the movie of the stylist, she's in like the main character is like in every shot of the movie, and she's constant going through every emotion and situation, and so her look is constantly changing. And it'd be like our Courtney would have to like do like 3 to 5 different looks on her through the day, of like flipping back and forth between scenes. And it's a lot of work, and a lot of work to keep track of, to make sure it all, because we don't shoot in order, to make sure it's all going to match when we put it together.
Yeah.
But I did hair. This is a great connection. I did hair on my friend's movie, Black Mold, that I mentioned, that's about to come out.
Okay.
That was my first time doing hair on a movie. Even I've done hair in a salon for almost 20 years, but that was my first time doing it on a movie, so it was quite a unique experience. But it was really cool to see like the whole thing go down from that perspective. I was like, I'm learning a lot to see from over here instead of over there,
Yeah. You're just gonna jump roll to roll to roll in different movies. Learn it all.
I feel like we really should. Well, we'd all have a lot more appreciation for how much work everyone is doing, for freaking sure.
Yeah.
How long did it take the stylist? How long did it take for you to make the stylist from start to finish?
Well, so many ways to answer that. The script we wrote for a couple of years. Like we shot the short we made in freaking 2016, which now feels like forever ago. And then we wrote the script for a couple of years. And once we decided actually to make it ourselves, we were trying to make it hopefully with a bigger budget, with some bigger producers. But then I just sat down with my producers from the short, and after a couple of years of us trying to get it made, we were like, we just have to make this. We can't wait any longer, or it's going to be like so old news by the time, because the short had been out for so long at that point, that I was like, we just got to do it. And that was 2009, the summer of 2019. I was like, we're going to start making this and like do a Kickstarter and just like piece the budget together as we go. So it was like it was really almost like a year until we put it out. So it's like we spent like 6 months pre-production, a month shooting it. And then, so we shot it like right before the COVID really shut the whole world down. It was like a miracle in hindsight that we had no idea that was coming. And I mean, we knew that we started to hear about it, and looking back, we were so ignorant. We were like, that's not going to affect us. So, well, yes, it fucking was. We shot the movie February 2020, and then, the whole world shut down in March, and then the film was premiering in September at festivals virtually. So it was a lot faster than I expected. And I think part of that was thanks to us being stuck at home, and we were all just working on the movie because we weren't able to do anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a whirlwind once we started to finally decide to do it. But I feel so thankful in the end that we did it just like with us instead of having like a big person above us, like, telling us what not to do or what we can do. And this way we got to make the movie exactly how we wanted to.
Yeah.
Would you ever want to like make a big super big budget when you have like those executive producers potentially breathing down your neck instead of being able to do exactly what your creative mind wants to put on screen?
It's hard to hell yes, I want to make a huge budget movie. I will not say no. I mean, you can't make movies like Scream or like say the remake of Evil Dead, shit like that. You're gonna have big people above you. I don't think all of them are bad or want to like take it away from you. There's just certain types of people that want to like, you just get this vibe that like they want to be a director, like they're really trying to certain people you work with, and it's like, why did you hire me if you just want to like make all those decisions instead? But no, I definitely want to keep making stuff that I have control over. I really love to, and I love working with the producers from the Stylist, and how much they get. We've been working together for so long that we like get each other's, like taste and styles. But yeah, I definitely would love to make something huge someday, or I mean something with they can call me up to make a fucking Star Wars movie, anything. But I mean, I would love to make like a bigger budget horror movie someday for fun, because those are so different than this kind of stuff.
Yeah. What did you learn while making The Stylist that you will carry over into your future projects?
Oh man.
I
Now
know.
I'm thinking about the newest movie, because this was so long ago that we made The Stylist. I guess most of it is like positive stuff, is like, if I'm going to make something that is lower budget, I'd rather it be a film like The Stylist that is a passion project, because it, even for like my cinematographer and my production designer and the composer, for all those people, it was a passion project. So everyone was willing to like work on it forever and ever and ever, way more than we had the ability to pay them for. And I realized that on this kind of stuff, if you don't have that kind of passion, then it's almost impossible or seems crazy to make stuff at the budget, because our schedules are so tight. We need all that time ahead of time. I know the Stylist, I feel like so lucky. It was like a dream come true. Or I guess some of the things I could say, I don't want to get too self-deprecating or point out my mistakes in the movie, but I've definitely learned where I can, if I could go back and re-edit the movie, I would tighten the shit out of it now, especially like 3 years after we've finished making it. I've watched it so many times, and I'm like, okay, I see where I would tighten things up. But that's how you feel about everything the further you get away from it. It's like,
Yeah.
a film is never, you can rewrite or re-edit a movie till the end of time. It's never done. You just have to say like, we're done. This is it. Like, we could change it forever.
I think everyone is their worst critic too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you have any fun stories from being on set?
Let me think of a story.
I know it's been a while.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird ones. We were filming that winter of 2020, and here in Kansas City, you guys are probably not many horror fans or are sports fans, but I'm a big Kansas City Chiefs fan, and that was the year we also won the Super Bowl. And we were filming during all the playoffs, and like we were really trying to schedule our shoot. And there was lots of Chiefs things that were concerning to our schedule, because we're like, well, if they go and if they win, there will be a parade that like takes over the whole city. I mean, the whole fucking city, like you can't even drive through anywhere in downtown for a whole day. So I was worried. I was also worried as a fan that we were being like, I was like, I'm jinxing them by even thinking about this, but we have to worry about the possibility, because we were going to be shooting downtown a lot, like literally on the route where the parade would be.
Oh wow.
And there's a big bachelorette party scene you might remember in the club, and that club was literally on the street where the parade would be going down, and we were shooting it during the week where it would have happened. And I mean, we were literally like contacting the city, the police, like we were getting like early information of if there was a parade, what day would it happen. And I was like, this was killing me as a fan. I was like, I can't even be talking about this stuff. This is jinxing everything. But we didn't jinx it. We fucking won. And we still shot it at that club the night before the actual parade still. They have like the whole street shut down the day before. We brought everyone in, and we had like 50 extras in that scene on a fucking bus. They're like parked like miles away. But then yet like 12 of us, probably not that many, maybe 10. Very crazy. Like we're shooting overnight, which means like 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And the parade starts at 11 a.m.
Oh my god.
This is our second overnight in a row, and like 10 of us stay afterwards and just go like straight to the parade. We just like stay in the bar as they're like opening up for the morning for the parade. And so all of us are on like haven't slept normal for like 3 days at this point. We're just going like straight to this parade. It was so fucking fun. As a huge fan of the Chiefs and being able to make this movie at the same time, for me, it was like so fucking special. And I'll like never forget it. It was like the Chiefs in my movie were like connected. They have no idea, but to me, it was very special. And yeah, it was awesome. And then this movie we just made, and the Chiefs just won again. So I feel like there's a connection. You know, I have to keep making movies.
Yeah, to keep the Chiefs winning.
There's some connection. At least these two. I mean, we hadn't won a Super Bowl in like 50 years before that. So
That's awesome. In The Stylist, you have a cameo. Have you done acting before, or have you never done any other acting before?
I have not. I was very nervous about doing that actually because
you did so good.
Thank you. I'm very camera shy, and like that's when my anxiety kicks into high gear, and I just am like, and I'll shut down. I've like told my people I'll do things and then like back out the last minute. And I know that's not cool. And so I was actually had to have like I like thought about it for a couple weeks before I decided if I was going to do it. Cause I'm like, I can't back out last minute like I like to. So I knew we had to like create a prosthetic, like get a wig, do a whole thing, like make a prosthetic for my neck. Like all that stuff has to be made weeks ahead of time. And I was like, we can't last minute throw somebody else in there when I freak out. So it was terrifying. And then I was talking about this on this last movie because it was technically a stunt when I like get stabbed and fall out of the frame onto a mat. And I'm joking because I'm like, well, I was the director. No one cares if I get hurt. I'm not a SAG actor. No one's coming after us if I break my neck. And when I'm doing that part on camera, though, I'm like, what have I gotten myself into? I'm trying to act, which I don't know how to do. I have to land on all these marks and fall out of the frame. And like, I'm worried about falling down and looking natural and all these things. Oh my God. But it was so much freaking fun. And again, I feel like I have a lot of respect for, I mean, I admire the hell out of what actors do and like what they have to put themselves through to like stay in these places all day while everyone's just running around and like they'll be laughing and they have to stay in this place. And after just that one night of doing that scene, it was so emotionally draining, and I wasn't even doing something that emotional. I guess you could. I was dying slowly. Maybe it's kind of emotional, but I was in tears at the end of the day. Not because it was bad. It was just like I just needed to like let it all out. Or it was like this exhausting experience. But I mean, I would do it again in a heartbeat. There's like a dream to like a childhood dream to be like killed in a horror movie. And my friend John, there's so many connections. He's the director of a Black Mold that I keep bringing up. He's edited The Stylist, and he actually came in for that day and was like our second unit director. I had him like behind the camera directing me because I wanted to stay there. I didn't want to be the person who was like going and looking at the monitor after every single take, and then I would be like unfairly judging things that don't matter. Like my
Yeah.
face doesn't look cute there, or like stupid stuff that doesn't have anything to do with the movie. So I was like, I'm going to trust you and I'm not going to look at it till we're done. Which was really cool too. It was so fun.
That's awesome. You did a good job. Would you do it again?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm scared to do anything too big. That's like the biggest thing I've done. And every time when I first open the door, when I watch it, I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna say the line. I can't stand it. It's hard with listening to your own voice, like recorded. Well, you guys do it all, must hear it all the time. So you must be used to.
Yeah.
A lot of us, it's like you hear your own voice and you're like, oh my God, is that what I sound like? Why?
Yeah, I feel you.
So when I first open the door in the scene, I'm always like, oh, fucking stab me fast, get past this part. And Najar actually helped me, the lead actress. She helped me with some direction in that scene that I think made me a better director, period. I'm like, okay, I have a lot to learn. I realized in that moment, I'm like, what she taught me just in that scene was pretty cool.
Yeah.
We saw you're doing some horror conventions in the past, and are you still doing them? And do you enjoy them? And have you been to Canada?
I do love them. I've only been to Canada for festivals. I haven't been to a convention in a few. Well, I guess. Well, the pandemics. Everything's changed since then. I don't even know what what's going on in the world anymore. I was going, especially the kind of scene in the Midwest here in the US is, it seems like you can go to any of the conventions and you'll see a lot of the same people, which I love that. It's like, this like tribe of crazy horror freaks, which I'm say that with love. That's me too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this fun summer camp, and we'd play movies, some of the movies at them. I'm a guest at one in Texas this summer called Final Girls. I don't know if they're calling it Final Girls Film Festival, but it's kind of more of a convention festival combo. But I haven't in a while. In fact, I just realized a lot of people were at Horror Hound Weekend this past weekend. And I realized how out of touch I am with like even knowing when they happen. And I was like, oh, that's this weekend. I love them. I just haven't been in, I don't think since before COVID. So I feel like that's how long it's been.
Yeah,
they're so fun.
We just started going to conventions a couple of years ago, actually. So after COVID.
Yeah, after. Yeah.
But they're a blast. Hopefully you can come out to Niagara sometime.
Wait, I need to call one out. I think I just heard my dog in here. There's a I went to one. I was a guest at one last May called FrankenCon in Knoxville, Tennessee, which Knoxville has become like a second home. I go for a lot of horror events. I help with the Knoxville Horror Film Festival too. But I'm going to be back at FrankenCon this year, and it went so well last year. I mean, they had Joe Bob and Darcy there last year, which I think was a great draw. But it was like their first year FrankenCon, and it was like packed. I'm like, I've been to conventions that are like old that aren't even this like well attended, and there's so many, you never know. It's a hard thing to start a convention. I would just like, that's a lot to do. You got to bring in guests, and I'm just like, I can't even begin to imagine what that is to like put to organize.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna sneak in. I got a couple questions.
Yeah, go for it.
I still got a couple more questions. We're pretty scripted over here, so I'm going off the rails. The conversation in the opening of The Stylist just seemed to flow so realistically. I was wondering if you've had a conversation like that.
I was wondering that too when we rewatched it.
Yes, and I will hear people say those words still, and I'm like, I'm saying this to myself like a total psychopath. An egotistical psychopath. I'll be like, see, that's real. Like to nobody. But like, especially the like looking through a magazine and seeing like or like talking about your hair and saying like everybody wants what they don't have. Like that is said like every day in a fucking salon, talking about like, I wish my hair would do this or this or this. The story specifically, like the woman sharing the story of how she's having an affair. I don't know if like that exact specific, but definitely the idea of how people will share just so much with you, more than they would with people they know. It's something about the layers of disconnect between, there's not any like personal connections, or maybe if you do know their people, they're not going to tell you that stuff. Tina wants to make a cameo here. But yeah, and that's actually something in that scene we don't really show the positive part of it, but that's one of the things I love about being a hairstylist, is that it is so personal, and that it's more than just people coming back to you for hair. It's really because there's like a personal relationship built. And I think that, in fact, that becomes bigger than the hair. It's like you might just be okay at hair, but if they really like you, they're going to keep coming back to see you. I think that's like with any profession. It's more like personality is as important as talent. Even with filmmaking, I always say that. I'm like, I'm not going to work with someone who's like crazy talented, but like a total asshole, which I think a lot of those people who think they can, if they're to a certain level of talent or ability, they can get away with treating people poorly. There I am on a ranch, the opening scene of the salon. But yeah, I really wanted to show a lot through the film of the reality of like of a hairstylist's life, and like how people talk to them, what they say. And it's cool people have like pulled things from it that I didn't necessarily like intentionally like consciously think of, but I see that it's there when people point it out. But just kind of the natural like classism of the movie, like being a hairstylist kind of being thought of as like a help kind of a job, and how some people look down on those kind of things and kind of treat you that way, like you're less than. And it's funny, I don't tend to ever feel that way, but naturally it came out in the film, and it was cool to see people pull that kind of stuff. I'm like, wow, I didn't mean to do that. The kind of subconscious stuff that I put in the movie that other people notice is really cool to realize, and sometimes scary. And I'm like, this is very revealing of myself when people realize certain things about it.
Also, the film is drowned in an insane amount of color. I'm just wondering how you went from scene to scene, knowing exactly which lighting you would use to set the mood, and if you took any kind of color theory classes in order to kind of set the mood. Or
yeah, we are crazy nerds for color. I am like I tried to be with all my movies. This movie, we went really crazy with it. We felt like, this being a movie called The Stylist, we intentionally leaned into like hyper or make it like stupid stylish. Like real life doesn't look this stylish. Like we knew like that was our point from the beginning. But we did pick it's interesting, the colors. I didn't pick the colors because of what maybe they might mean. And like, say you look up like, what does yellow mean or what does purple mean? But we chose the colors and gave them our own meaning. Like Claire, her whole life, like her wardrobe, her house, and all kind of her salon, we made like the salon like a mix of like her life and the rest of the world's color palette. But we wanted her to, and this carried from the short, like yellow was a color we decided in the short was going to be like her main color. And it became an obsession for me, for her to be her, like that mustard yellow. She's wearing it in almost every scene. And then it extends into like her basement scene, which is like all the candles, kind of like golden yellow being like everywhere in her life. And we found the meaning in the basement. We were like, well, with this warmth in this basement, normally like a serial killer lair would be all like dingy and like more like cool and cold and gross feeling. And we wanted hers to still be scary and gross, but this is like her story, so we wanted it to feel like a warm, safe place. So like, since this is her story, it's not like about the victim and like she's the bad guy, she's the good and the bad guy. So we wanted that to feel like a nest, like her, like this is where she is, everything is warm and safe. And so it also just like connected this idea of like her color palette's like kind of feels like it's from the 70s. Like, so when we like placed her into the real world, like at the coffee shop or the club or wherever, she really stood out because everyone else was in a different, like we made them like a modern color palette, blue, purple, white. like she had the yellow, browns, and greens, and so it was always like clashing. And we made like that main other character, Olivia, those were her colors, but I realized like the whole world should be looking like that, so that Claire always stood out. And we realized it was this idea of like she stands out everywhere, not like she's like out of, like she's like the awkward weirdo, but just like maybe she almost looks like she's from another time, or like she's in her own world. And so that was, so when we like decide all that ahead of time, like that color palette, like who has what, so we knew, like, so it was easy to figure out scene by scene. When it come to like lighting, when we use like bright colored lights, we only did that like giallo style, like neons and stuff, when it had like natural motivation. We didn't want to do the thing where we just like lit every scene cool colors, which I like when movies do that, if there's like they come up with like their own rules and reasons. But we wanted like them to always be motivated from like a real source, so to speak. So like in the salon, we put like a neon outside, like it's an actual sign, like, so it's not just like a random pink light on her face. Or like when she breaks into one of the bridesmaids' houses or apartments, there's red light flashing, and we created like that's coming from another neon flashing outside of like a strip club sign, which was totally created with CGI, which was really cool to do. Or in the club, we used a lot of the bright lights because clubs have cool lighting, but otherwise we didn't do that stuff on purpose, because we were like, we want it all to come from a supposed real place. But yeah, so the color meant a lot to us. And I do that often. I like give like either a character a specific color palette, or like a location, or like, and then we give it meaning, like, this means this, we're choosing this because I do that with the new film we made. Like there's two different casts of characters, and I was like, this cast is going to be more like green and dingy, and they're going to be more like blue and creepy, like a haunted house. And so that's always kind of how I'm thinking. And I totally was inspired to do that by like David Fincher is a big into color and like things you wouldn't notice unless you studied him. Like his film Zodiac, he uses yellow throughout the whole film, and then suddenly there's like a flip where everything that was yellow is blue for the rest of the movie. And it's like to just show the passing of time, and it's stuff you wouldn't even notice till someone points it out to you, and you're like, but you can just like these kind of things you can just like feel. I feel like that's what makes movies better than just like okay. Are those kind of details. I can go on the rant. I'm sorry, I love fucking color and using just like every detail you can use to make your movie give it more meaning. And so we went deep into that stuff.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. I love it.
Yeah, the color in the Stylist was like one of the things that really stood out to me and was one of my favorite parts about it, because it was so beautiful. And I'm really excited that your next movie, you thought about that as well, because that was going to be one of my questions, if it was more of a grittier movie or if you continued with the colors. So I'm excited.
Thank you. I love to make, I really want my stuff to be really visually just, I don't know. I can't even find the word for it. I don't want it to all be beautiful and stylish, unless like not everything should be beautiful, but I just love to make stuff as visually interesting as possible, and for whatever the story calls for, or however we can do it, depending on what the content is.
Definitely. We're going to get into the new movie now, so just let us know what you can talk about and what you can't. So can you talk about what it's about, or maybe what subgenre it's going to be, at least?
Man, I wish I could say so much more, so much faster.
That's okay.
They haven't even announced the title. I asked them recently,
No.
I'm like, what are we waiting for? But I get it. Sometimes they want to wait and kind of like have this big, like, it's all like announced at once, like poster, here we are, it's going to play at this festival. But it's a, why can't I find the word? It's a home invasion type film, kind of like,
okay.
It's become a whole subgenre at this point, like, The Strangers or You're Next. I'm like, why? There's a million. Why can't I think of them all right now? It is kind of what I feel like I was most excited about it was that it's kind of like a home invasion film and like a classic haunted house film, like clashing into each other. It's kind of like two different stories going at once, and like it's very exciting in that way.
Awesome.
Very layered. I was really excited about that.
Awesome.
How long were you filming for?
We filmed for 3 weeks,
Oh,
and we
wow.
just wrapped at the beginning of, I think, a month from now. It feels very surreal now. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like I was just like in it 24/7, not thinking about anything else. And then like to finally have come home and had a few weeks like separated from it. Now I'm like, do we really shoot that whole movie? It feels like a dream, like a whirlwind dream.
Back to reality.
It was just a few days less time than the Stylist, which did make it more challenging. But it was awesome. I worked with it was pretty much a whole new crew. It was not the same people from the Stylist because it was something I was hired on to, and it's being executive produced by Eduardo Sanchez, who's the director of the original Blair Witch Project. And he's directed tons since then, but that's obviously what he's very much known for. Only created a whole subgenre and a million copycats of movies since then. But so I'm a huge fan of Blair Witch and of his. So to get hired onto it was just like kind of like a horror nerd dream come true for me. And we have Mike Williams, one of the lead actors from Blair Witch, is also in the film. And the only person that I had worked with on this project was the little girl from the Stylist, our flower girl at the very end of the movie, who had a small role, but she has a pretty cool, creepy little moment with Claire when Claire looks down at her at the wedding and she smiles up at her. I love when I'm in a crowd and everyone kind of like laughs awkwardly at that moment. But she's in my new movie and has a really big role. And
awesome.
Ever since working with her on the Stylist, she's so good. I mean, she's only 10 years old now, so she was like 7 in the Stylist, and she impressed me so much. We only had her on set for like 2.5 days, but I was like, this girl is so talented. Someone should write a whole movie for her to star in. And so when this script showed up and there was a character that was a child, I was like, oh my God, can we get Vienna in it? And I like fought till the end to get her, because we were trying to cast locally. She lives in the Midwest too, but she has a big role. It's kind of like a classic kid horror role, which I never thought I would do. And it was so cool to be able to like, do kind of like the Danny in The Shining, or like, I don't tend to write stuff like about families or kids. As someone who doesn't have kids, I don't think like that naturally. So it was very like intimidating at first, but also really exciting. Cause I'm like, she has to do a lot, and that's a lot, very asking a lot of a child, and especially of being able to act out these scenes. And she's incredible. I'm so excited for people to see her in this thing. I hope that like she's kind of like the standout thing, and I'm like, I want her to become a huge actor. She's so great.
That's awesome. How did you come across the house that you got to film in?
Oh my God, that house is so freaking incredible.
It looks
it was found by
creepy.
my producer Carlo Glorioso. He found it. And it's funny, when he first showed it to us, he was like, I know this isn't like the amazing mansion in the script, but it's pretty cool. And I'm like, what? This is cooler than I could ever imagine us ever getting. Like, this is definitely as cool as the scripts. Because we write a script, it's like written to be maybe even bigger than the one, but we found like a 5-level, like 12-bedroom mansion from the 1800s. I'm a huge geek for like old architecture and creepy, like we were talking about creepy places.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it was just a nerd dream come true to be able to film in like a house that cool. And it pretty much almost the whole thing is in the house. Which partly we thought like that would be less, easier because we're just in one place. But when you're in a house that has like a gazillion rooms and we're filming in like a lot of them, it's like, it didn't feel like we were in one place, because we still have like 10 rooms to decorate and light and move. We're like moving all around all the time. But it was so cool.
Awesome.
I noticed that Adam Caesar, the author of Clown in a Cornfield, was on set with you. Does he have a part in writing or helping with the new movie?
Yes, he wrote it.
Oh, did
Adam
he?
is so awesome. Yes.
Cool.
I wish I was also directing Clown in a Cornfield. Hello, producers who are making that movie.
Yeah, I heard that was coming out.
They I don't know if they've even it's been optioned, but I don't know if they've even shot it or if they've hired a direct. I don't know what's going on. But I love that book. I'm reading the sequel to it right now, actually. And so it was fun. I had met Adam and actually Jamie Nash, who's another writer. Jamie wrote most of Ed's films like Lovely Molly and Exists and his VHS segment and what the heck is Altered. But Jamie and Adam wrote another script that I was attached to a few years ago, and that's how I first met them. And we didn't get to make that film, but I have stayed in contact with them, and they Jamie's a producer on this one too, but Adam reached out to me and he's like, we have this script and it looks like it might actually get made soon. This was like a long time ago, and I didn't know if that was anything real. And then suddenly they called me up in December. We're like, so we're going to make this movie. Are you available? And I was like, hell yes, I am. I will literally, nothing would keep me from doing it unless I was already making another movie is the only thing that would make me say no.
That's awesome. Clown in a Cornfield is on my summer read list. I read the first chapter, but I've been in like a book funk, but the first chapter was insane.
It's so fun. And
I'm excited.
I was like so geeked to want to like, I'm like, can I at least like pitch my vision to the producers that own it? Because I'm like, it's like very classic slasher. It has lots of Scream feelings to me, not being like Scream like, but just of that era. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and it's set in the Midwest. I'm like, come on, Midwest filmmaker. I can go find this location easily. Let's go.
Yeah. Did you come across any big obstacles while making this new movie?
Always we do. Every movie is so hard. And I think that's why like the feeling that comes with accomplishing these like figuring out all the problem solving and like overcoming the challenges, I think is like half of the reason why we do it. It's like so satisfying to be able to figure out something that's like mostly impossible. The most challenging part was just that it was my first time being a hired director. And so, normally I'm producing my own movie. So I'm the producer and the director. So I'm working for myself. And so with this, like I had less control in that way and less time to prepare. Like I was hired in December and we shot it in February. So I just had only a couple months with the script, less time with just everyone in pre-production. So it made the shoot itself just more challenging. We just had to be like kind of, I went in early every day to do more prep, like stuff I would have had normally prepared weeks ahead of time. I was still doing. So it took more, I just think more focus and more work. But I had an incredible team. I was say my dog really wants to be in this. My other dog, Pepper, is the one in the movie. She's not running around over here.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, everyone I had worked with or I had never worked with, like as far as like my cinematographer, everyone, but we just like jived right away. And the cinematographer, his name's Justin Brooks. He is a filmmaker he made a movie called Alone with You that you guys should check out. It's on Shudder. Him and his wife made it in the pandemic, just like them too. It's very like, I feel like in the spirit of Blair Witch in that way. Like, they used like what they could, just them two made a movie and it's like done super well. But Emily's actually in the film too. I was like, I'm stealing both of you and we're going to make a movie together. But it was great. It was, he's really a filmmaker who knows how to like, Emily was telling me this too. His wife, who's also an actress, Emily Bennett. She's a high anxiety person like me. And she's like, you and Justin are going to be a great team then, because he's like so chill. And I'd be over there like, I don't know what we're going to do. And he'd just be like, we're going to do this, this, and this, and it's going to be fine. I'm like, okay, we're cool. He was just like, knew how to like, I'm like one thing changes and like my brain melts inside and I'm like, no, everything's ruined. And he's like, Jill, no, it's not. Like, that changed, but we can still do this. and then we would all figure it out. And so I'm so appreciative to the team because it was very challenging, but like we freaking nailed it. I was sure we're going to have to beg for another day. and we freaking made it on our schedule somehow.
That's awesome.
If you'd compare this new movie to any other movies, what would you compare it to? So I know you already kind of said a couple, like The Strangers.
Well, it's hard to say that it's since it's a home invasion, but what's different is that it's. Am I getting in trouble for saying anything? This film is from the perspective of the invaders versus how most home invasion movies, like the people who live in the house are the main characters. So in that way, I feel like it's kind of more set up like a thriller because we're like with the bad guys instead of like being away from them and then suddenly like scaring us. So, which I feel like maybe that's going to become my thing because I love to make movies about the bad people who are normally the bad people. I guess like Don't Breathe, which was a big inspiration as far as like kind of because that actually is one that's from the invaders' perspective too. Mm-hmm. It has a lot of similarities to Don't Breathe, and I rewatched it after I read the script, and I was like, oh yes. We definitely should use this as a reference in a few ways. Like I really love how the visuals of Don't Breathe too. So he has a mix of that, and then also like I was saying, some haunted house films. I was looking at even like Haunting on Hill House, kind of the look of that film, but it's not. I think that's why I like this movie a lot. It's not a lot like a lot of movies. There's like little pieces of stuff, but it also reminded me of Barbarian in how layered it is. Did you guys see the new film Barbarian?
Yeah,
I fucking loved it.
Yeah, me too.
It's not like it in like the type of story, but just how like Barbarian, I feel like you think it's one thing, and then you think you figured it out, and then you think like it just keeps changing. You keep thinking like, oh, I know what this movie is, and then you're like, oh, there's more. I like this movie kind of does that. It's like there's just so many layers to it, which I think is what made Barbarian so freaking awesome. Oh my God, I need to watch that movie again.
You just made me excited to see the new movie now. It looked like you guys had a lot of fun in your wrap party. You guys had some joints going and some beers.
Of course.
What did you guys do to celebrate?
I had so much fun hanging. I'm such a I tend to fall. One of the best things about making a movie is like just like bonding with the crew. Mm-hmm. And I was nervous about this movie just because I didn't know any of the crew going into it, and I was just hoping we would have that experience, or we would connect that way, and it really did happen. Like anytime we had like the next day off or like on a weekend, we would all get together on Saturday nights even. But for our wrap, it's funny. Whenever we try to have like official wrap parties, we're always way too tired because we tend to like celebrate the second we actually say wrap, because you can't just like say like wrap, the whole movie's over, and then just go home. Like you're all have all this adrenaline. And it's like we wrapped at like 6 a.m. one day. So we're like, then we all stayed awake till like noon hanging out. And then we're planning to all just go back and sleep and then go back out that night. I'm like, we're going to be so delirious by the time that happens. Which is what happens. But it was fun. When we actually just all sat around after wrap and just had some drinks and snacks, we were like going around in a circle, all talking about like, it was some game. One of my actresses, Kia Dorsey, she's our lead actress. She's also a teacher. When she talked to us after, I was like, I see teacher Kia now. She was like explaining this game to us, but she's like, you're high, you're low, and you're uh-oh. And we all went around and like shared like our high and our low and our uh-oh from the film. It was really like a special thing to hear just everyone talk about the movie and like their favorite part. But yeah, we get into shenanigans, and I was joking because everyone, aside from like there's certain parts of the crew are older. It's funny, like kind of the crew heads are older. Like my cinematographer's my age, or he's a little bit older than me, and like my sound guy. But otherwise, the rest of the crew, they're always young. They're like in their 20s, and we're all like, I'm going out with them every night, and like, or the nights that we would go out, and I'm like, guys, like everyone here is like 15 years younger than me. I have to leave. But I loved them so much. I become crazy with my crews. Like I fall so deeply in love with them. I don't even want to sleep. I'm like, every second I have to hang out with you guys because this is all going to be over suddenly one day.
Aw.
That is how it is. Then it's just like over. You like spend every second with these people for like a month and then it's just gone.
Yeah. Aw.
So you said that the new movie is going to be coming to some film festivals. I was just wondering when we'll be expecting a official title drop and trailer, and where will we be able to watch it? Like, is it going to be hitting Shudder or Netflix or Prime or hitting theaters potentially?
I'm not sure yet. I know that we won't know that kind of stuff till we have the movie more put together. I know we're hoping for the best. It'll definitely at least be on demand and stuff later, but a film by the same production company is there. They got a theatrical for it that's about to come out. So that gave me a little bit of hope. I was like, what if we could get even a small theatrical? I would be so geeked out. But it's all, it's fun to in festivals you get to play theaters, but like I couldn't imagine having like an actual theatrical release for something. That would be so fucking cool.
Indie movies are the new hype right now.
I know.
Skinamarink and Terrifier 2. I can
I
see
can't
it
believe how
happening.
great and it's so exciting to see like a film like Skinamarink get that big of a theatrical release. It's insane. And
Mhm.
not just
Yeah.
like indie theater, like we have a theater here in Kansas City, Screenland Armor, where they host Panic Fest. And it's like places like that I expect to show, indie horror, but like every chain had Skinamarink and even Terrify. I was like, what is going on? This is incredible. Put my movie out there, damn it. I was bitter. I'm still bitter that when I finally made my first feature, then a pandemic happened. And so like
Yeah.
most of our festival run was virtual. And I'm like, I still want to go back and do all that in person.
Yeah. At least you got all the filming done in time.
Yeah.
Now that the film is wrapped up, do you have any plans for future films?
Um, Always working on stuff. I have a
Yeah.
script I've been working on since last summer that I need to pick back up now that I think I go through a thing where in the winter I don't have any inspiration. Like winter is so depressing for me. I
Hmm.
don't get anything done unless it's like required. In fact, I felt like this film that we just shot was like to me like a saving grace because I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be something that is gonna like keep like a real job that's like back being creative, that's like has like a real schedule, and it's not just like when you're just on your own writing, you can just like not do it for a month and then be like, oh wow, I haven't made any progress. There's no one keeping you accountable and stuff. So having this to focus on all winter was like a like a freaking godsend. I'm not even religious, but like I can't figure a better word for it. But it's like I was so thankful for it. And because especially, and also before that I was just feeling like kind of low in the sense of like, am I ever going to make another movie again? It was just feeling like so hard to like keep going. um and so but all last summer I was writing a script and it's not horror at all. It's like an indie drama. And I really want to get back on finishing that because it's like it's probably decently close. I'm just really really insecure with my writing. um but I'm also talking to a producer about a new project that I'm hoping to get attached to that's actually more of like an action horror revenge movie. And I've been like
Okay.
literally saying like I want to make an action movie. So I feel like I'm like putting it out there and it's coming. Like this would be if I were to be able to make this one, it's like the perfect bridge of like horror meets action. And then I could prove that like, see, I could make an action movie. Um and a lot of my favorite like Indonesian like Korean directors do that. I feel like there's a few directors from that area that they make horror and action and films that kind of like cross the line of both. And I'm like, that's what I want to be. So I'm really hoping this goes somewhere, which that's totally like nothing I can talk about in detail, but that just came into my life in the last couple of weeks. So I'm really excited about it.
Awesome.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Tell us about the movie Black Mold that you helped produce. Is it hitting festivals as well? Trailer is out.
Um, we're still working on a trailer. In fact, I'm a producer on it. I'm a kind of a smaller producer on it compared to how with the stylist, but and I did hair and I'm running the PR and like submitting it to festivals. But we're making our world premiere next week at Panic Fest here in Kansas City, actually. And so I'm very excited for it. I've intentionally haven't even watched the finished version because I'm gonna wait to see it in the theater. Um, but it's written directed by John Pata, and he's kind of like I told you he edited The Stylist, but he's been a big influence and inspiration on me through filmmaking, like from the beginning. But Black Mold is about a photographer and an artist. She's a photographer who likes to explore creepy old buildings. Here's the theme in this conversation. And she likes to photograph them. And she's just landed this like dream showing at an art gallery. And she's also managed to get a tip onto getting into this like creepy old hospital that like her and her friend have always wanted to like get in and photograph. And so it's largely about them going to going to that giant hospital, exploring it, and discovering lots of things that bring up her traumatic past. So it's like a very psychological thriller and horror combo, kind of like The Stylist. But it's all of us filmmakers love to say something more than just like on the top, it's a fun horror movie, but underneath it all is what it means to us. But so it was really cool because we're in all these creepy, horrifying buildings. Which the downside was we were wearing like snow pants every fucking day of that shoot. It was so cold. Even inside, it's like being in a refrigerator in those old buildings. It's like the stone just like insulates the freezing cold. But it's a really unique film, and it stars it also has Jeremy Holm in it. I don't know if you guys saw The Ranger, which was a slasher that came out a few years ago about a park ranger. He's in the film and he's incredible to work with. In fact, after working with him, I'm like, you guys need to make a ranger too. I mean, when I saw The Ranger, I'm like, it's such a funny character. It needs to become a franchise. But it was so cool to work with him, and he plays a really unique character that we haven't been able to even like release pictures of, because we're like, he's such like a thing in the movie. We don't want anyone to know about him until like it's been seen finally. But yeah, we're submitting to like all over the place. So we're hoping that it'll play through, like through the end of the year. And as far as like where it'll release to the public, those are the kind of things you kind of figure out as you're going through the festival run and see who's interested in it. And I know we're waiting to release a trailer, I think, till we have a couple more festivals lined up. But yeah, we're hoping to release a clip here soon and some more stills from the film.
Cool. Concept sounds interesting. Who is someone you would like to work with in the future?
Oh man, there's so many people to choose from. I'm gonna go with a crazy one that came to my head first. Claire Danes, I would love to work with. She's an actress. She's who I named Claire in The Stylist after, and she played Juliet in the Romeo and Juliet from the 90s, which is one of my favorite films, which is like a huge inspiration. A lot in The Stylist is very inspired by Romeo and Juliet, the look, the story. So yeah, she would be a dream to put in something. I feel like she's very, which I think is very cool as an actor. She's very like choosy. The only thing she's been in, to my knowledge, well, she's been in a new show that I haven't seen, but she was in Homeland for the last like decade. And when I finally saw Homeland, it reminded me how good she is. I'm like, you don't see her in very much. And I'm like, I'm sure she just is like, she's not just going to do whatever. She's only going to do really good stuff. Which that's something I feel like that people don't realize about actors. We unfairly judge the stuff that they're in, but it's like they don't get to, like, they just take whatever the hell comes their way. Sometimes they don't have a choice. It's like either I do this or I don't work at all. Yeah. So it's like they don't always love everything they're in. They just have to work.
Yeah.
We got one more question, and it's from our listener. It's Aubrey from Killing Time Podcast. He says, what is your best advice for somebody wanting to get into directing?
So sorry, I lost my ear, but I heard you. Best advice. I think you might have heard me say this before if anyone listens to me, but I think a lot of it is not being afraid of like what you don't know yet, because that's been something that I've had to like continually, I think, like remind myself and learn again. That keeps me from like trying something new, because like everything seems scary from afar, especially like making a movie. Like the big picture of it is like terrifying, because it is like there's a lot, but anything can be done like when you break it down into just like literal lists and step by step. So it's just a matter of like not being afraid of what you don't know, because you're not going to figure it out until you do it. Like there's so much, like we wish we could just like we already know it all and then we do it, but it's like you can't figure it out without literally doing it. And I feel like that's something that I read somewhere or someone said to me, that's like, yeah, we can't it's even as simple, or like comparing it to just even being a hairstylist. Like you could read all the books, but until you cut somebody's hair, which you're probably going to make mistakes as you do it, you can't figure out how to actually do it without physically doing it. So I think it's just to not be because I even like before I made my first feature, I'd made a lot of shorts, and we really were trying to make the Stylist into a feature for what felt like forever. And I had to remind myself, like, we just have to do this ourselves, not wait for someone else to figure it out for us. And so that's always been how I've done anything. But it's just a matter of just breaking it down like piece by piece, and because anything is too intimidating from like the grand scale. But anyone can do it. Like I have no idea what I was doing. I didn't go to school for it. I still don't know half of the terms that they say on sets. None of that matters. You can figure, like, honestly, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
It's about like believing in yourself. Like all that cheesy stuff that they say is so freaking true, and people like want to laugh at it. But it's like, if you want to do it and actually believe that you can, and then hold yourself to that, then you will. Like it's that simple.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that kind of stuff. Like I'm like, your mind is powerful, and if you don't think you can do it, then you can't. Like it's that, because you will hold yourself from doing whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, those are all the questions that we got. I'm very excited for the new movie now that we've talked about it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for talking to me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Before we finish up, do you want to plug your account one last time for people that want to find you?
Yeah. Please follow me at Jill Sixx, Sixx, on all the places. And I have a website, sixtape.com, which I desperately need to update. Oh my God, the pandemic and everything has been bad for me in updating my website. But yeah, please follow it all. And through that, you'll see all the other things like Black Mold and the Stylist. And hopefully the name of the new movie soon.
Yes. We'll be keeping an eye out. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter at Our Life in Horror. We have our Patreon up now. And thank you everyone for listening. Stay spooky.